teacher talk session tonight. And tonight we are going to have another session with different educator from different part of the world. And tonight is our 150th session, and we have a very special guest tonight, and she is ELT writer and teacher trainer and consultant Emma Heyderman. When she comes, we are going to start our live session with her. Let me send her invitation to join. When she comes, we are going to start the live session with her. Waiting for her to join. We just need to wait because of Instagram. This happens. Sorry for this situation. Sure, I know, Emma. I have accepted your request. Just waiting. Mm, waiting. Okay, one more time.
Hi,
Yes, hi,
yay!
hello. Yes, finally. It takes time.
Finally.
Finally, really, that sometimes it really happens,
My
but it's not in our
heart was
hands.
going.
But it's okay. It's
Yeah,
okay.
I'm
Thank you very
here.
much.
Not at
Okay,
all.
so finally you are here, Emma. It's really great to see you here, and I would like to say thank you very much for being with us for the 150th session. As you are here, it's wonderful to have you here in the session.
Congratulations. That's quite amazing. What is that?
Thank you very much.
3 years. Three
Yeah,
years
almost.
of,
Yeah, almost. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
3 years. Yeah, it's a long process, really.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you very
think we
much.
can all, everybody can give you a huge round of applause.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I know we are all busy, Emma, and you are also very busy. So if you're ready, we can start.
Let's go. Let's go
Okay,
for it.
so I know about you, Emma, but maybe our audiences would like to know about you. So can you please tell about yourself a little bit and a bit about your experiences too?
Okay, sure. I can already see some friends in the room, so that's great. Lovely
Wonderful.
to see you there. I can see Laura's there, and I think Harry was there for a moment. But anyway, let me tell you about myself. I'm from London originally, grew up in Wimbledon,
Wow.
and then I went to university. I studied psychology at university. I won't go into too much there because that answers another question. But after studying psychology, I then ended up qualifying as a teacher. But I'd leave out the middle bit because that will answer another question, because that was one of my turning points.
Uh-huh.
I then was offered a job here in San Sebastian. That's where I live, San Sebastian, which is in the north of Spain. I started working for a really big school. At the time, the school had something like 2,000 students, but now, somebody's asking me to speak slowly, so I'll slow down. So
Oh,
here I
okay.
was. Yeah, I'll slow down. I tend to speak very fast when I get nervous, so I'll
No,
slow
it's
down.
okay. No, go.
Yeah. So I came to San Sebastian, a huge school. It began with 2,000 students, but then it had 6,000. It grew and grew and grew, and it had 6,000 students.
Wow.
I was a teacher, a coordinator, a director of studies, and then finally I became the director of education of this very, very big school.
Wonderful.
And then the pandemic hit. That was another of my turning points. And I decided to go freelance. So now I'm a freelancer. I
Oh, I
write
see.
materials. I teach. I'm a teacher trainer, and I'm also a consultant. And that's me. And
Wonderful.
here I am today.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Emma. So, let move to another question. So, what was or were your turning point or points in your own education?
Okay, so I have I have three big turning points. The first one is, imagine me at school. I was a lazy student. I was your teenager that you don't want. So that teenager that you kept saying, oh, come on, you can do better, do more. And I was the teenager whose dog used to eat my homework.
Uh-huh.
My mum used to put my books in the washing machine. What else used to happen? All my brothers used to steal my books. I had all those excuses. So
Uh-huh.
I applied to university, but my grades weren't good enough. And that was a great turning point,
Mm-hmm.
because it meant I took a year out. I sat down and I thought, Emma, you're 18. What do you really want to do?
Oh, I
So I
see.
had to
Mm-hmm.
rethink. And I decided, actually, what I really want to do is learn more about people and I was very interested in children. So that's why I did psychology. So that
Oh,
was the
I
first
see.
huge turning point. So
It's
then I
wonderful.
went, yeah. So I went to university and I studied psychology, and I thought, yeah, that's what I want to do. So I finished university, went for a job, and I was talking to somebody about the fact that I wanted to be an educational psychologist.
Oh,
So this was in a big
mm-hmm.
hospital in London. It was a psychiatric hospital. And I said, yeah, what I really want to do, I was 23 at the time. I really want to be a psychologist and I really want to work with children. But do you know what? A friend of mine is going to Spain to teach English. And she said, do you know what? You should go to Spain, teach English, get some life experience,
Uh-huh.
and then come back and apply
Oh,
for a
I
job to
see.
be a psychologist. So that was
Mm-hmm.
another huge turning point.
No.
Somebody told me, get some life experience and then come back. So
Oh,
I got my
it's
life
great.
experience. I ended up in Spain. Here I am teaching English, and I thought, I love this. I love this job. I love being in this huge school. I love teaching kids, teenagers. I could
Wonderful.
understand why they never did their homework because I had been that teenager. And my final turning point was the pandemic. So here I
Oh,
am.
I see.
Imagine me. I'm quite a little person, but I had a big job and I couldn't do it. It was too much. It was the director of a school with 6,000 students. We'd gone through the pandemic, and I decided, another turning point. Let's now take a break. Let's go freelance and let's try some other things. So there we go.
Wow.
3 turning
There we
points
go.
in my life.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing your turning points with us, Emma. It's really, really important points for yourself. Uh-huh. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so Emma, I know that you have been teaching for a long time, and in this teaching career, you have tried different strategies, different techniques, different methodologies in your lessons, and maybe still you are trying to do it. And I'm
Mm.
sure that you have a kind of a philosophy of teaching. So,
Mm.
what is it? What is your philosophy of teaching?
Aha. So my philosophy, I think, is you really need to begin with somebody who had a huge influence on me was Simon Sinek
Mm-hmm.
from business. He's got a great book and a great TED talk called Start with the Why. And
Oh, I see.
this was important to me. The why. Why? What am I doing? Why am I going into the classroom? And as I began to think about this, his idea of starting with the why, I also began to think about the who, and who am I doing this for? And I began to think, well, in a big language school, the who are my students, obviously, but it's also my own director is one of the who's. My students' parents are one of
Uh-huh.
my who's. The university is a who because my students need English to then get into university.
I see.
So I began to think about, okay, how can I meet the needs of all these who's? And the most
Mm.
important who is obviously my student in the classroom.
Oh, I
So
see.
everything I do must have a purpose. Why am I doing it? And how is it meeting my students' needs?
Mm-hmm.
So forget about myself, nothing to do with me. It's to do with my students, their parents, my directors, the learners, etc., etc., and also to think about why. So that's my philosophy.
Mm.
Who
I
and
see. Oh,
why.
who and why? I see.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
very much, Emma. Uh, I saw a question here. Can I
Yeah.
direct you?
Yes, of
Yeah,
course.
in the chat box you can see, Dear Emma, how psychology can make aware teachers and inspire them to guide students.
Great question. Great question. So I think the thing about a psychology degree, and definitely in the UK, our degrees are quite short. So our degrees are 3 years. And I think what the degree taught me was to think, was to reflect on everything I do and to question everything I do. And I think that's what I would say is important for a teacher, to
I
be
see. Mm-hmm.
reflective. So before you go into a class, think about what am I about to do? And then when you finish in the classroom, reflect on what you've just done, why you've done it, what worked, and what could do better. what you could do better next time. And I think my psychology training has taught me to be reflective and to think a
I
lot.
see.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you very much for your answer. And I hope the answer is enough for you, Azra, for the question. Okay, thank you. Let's move to another question. And we are educators, and in our education career, definitely we have a lot of stories actually. Some failed stories, some success stories, some difficult stories, or so on. So in your career, when you think about this, can you tell us one or maybe two, if you have, of course, success stories of yours, something inspirational?
Gosh, do you know what? It's so much easier to tell you about my failures. Isn't that funny? I mean, that's another bit of human psychology, that we often think about our failures. And but let me talk about success, because we're talking about being positive and inspiring. I think every day we have successes, right? So every day a student smiles at you and says, "Oh, I enjoyed that class." That's a success. I can remember I had a very difficult group of it was a very young group with one older 16-year-old, and she found it tough. It was a lower level than her friends. She was in the group. Everyone else was 12 or 13. She was 15 going on 16. And a lot of the classes she struggled, and a lot of the classes she looked quite miserable. I tried. I talked to her. At the end of every class, I checked in with her and checked she was doing okay. But I never really felt that I completely won her over. And then the next year, the next September, I went back to visit the school, and she was coming out with her friends. She moved away from her friends. In Spain, it's very normal to go up to your teacher and give them a hug. That's fine. She came up to me. She gave me 2 hugs, 2 kisses, and she said, "Thank you, Emma, for last year." That was one of my successes.
Wonderful.
You know, the fact that even though she never smiled in the class, I had still somehow won her over. So I would say that's one of my successes.
Wonderful. Okay. You just mentioned some, it's easy to talk about some failure stories.
Yes. Yeah.
Wanna tell us one of your failed stories?
Oh.
It's not compulsory, but
Not
if you want.
I think we've all had moments where we thought, why did I do that? That was silly.
Definitely.
Why did I react in that way? Why didn't I? Well, later we're going to talk about our superpowers, and I'll bring this up again when we come to that.
Okay then. Okay. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Emma. So, you are a trainer, and probably you have given lots of training sessions, you've done lots of presentations. When you think about them, what was or were the most interesting situation or situations that you faced in this presentations or training sessions?
That's a good one. I think it's when you're asked a question and you're not completely sure of the answer, because you go into a training session and maybe you haven't quite read who you'll be talking to, or maybe they ask you about a situation that you've never thought about. And they ask you a question and you're thinking, that's a tricky situation. That's a tricky question. And you just need time to think, so how am I going to answer it? What you don't want to do is necessarily say, well, what would you do? Because you don't want to necessarily say. So I think what you need to, at that moment, you just need to say, thank you. That's a great question. I've never really thought about that. Maybe you'd like to share your opinions while I just think about it. And if I can't think of an answer at that moment, I would always say, do you know what? I'm going to give you my email address and I'm going to get back to you. And I think that's what I would say about teachers. When you're in the classroom and that very bright student or any student asks you a question, one of those tricky questions, and you're thinking, I don't know the answer. And you have to say to them, do you know what? I don't know the answer. My mind's completely blank. I'll get back to you. I'll let you know the answer tomorrow or in the next class. So I think that's probably what I've learned from the classroom and what I now do in training. If I don't know the answer, I'll give it back to them and say, well, what do you think? And then I'll say, I'll need to get back to you on that one.
I see. But it's sometimes, when we go to the classrooms, our students definitely they think that, when they ask questions and if we're not sure about the answer, they directly say, but you're a teacher and you should know all the answers. And then we can, okay, I'm a human being and it's not possible to know every answer. So just give it time. I also do the same thing. I just ask them, okay, let's skip this question. I'll find the answer and give it back to you tomorrow. Or let's do like this. We can both search. You can go at home and search your answer, and I can search my answer, and then come back together here to the classroom, and we can share our ideas, which was really interesting for them.
Absolutely.
But sometimes they ask, you don't know the answer, or Mr. Dinar, you don't know the answer. So it's normal, I said. Do you know everything? No. So for me, it's also normal.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, that's what you say on the first day, that I don't know everything. I'm here, but I know how to find the answer. That I do know.
Exactly.
I don't know everything, but I certainly know where I can begin to look for answers.
Definitely.
And sometimes, I involve them in looking for the answer. I mean, a little thing, spelling. People say, how do you spell a word like, I'm trying to now think of a word that's tricky to spell. Throughout is a difficult word in English to spell. Throughout.
Yeah.
And I'll say to them, that is really tricky and I think we should look it up. And I say, so where are we going to look it up? What would be the quickest way to do it? What websites do you use? How do you do it? And we look at it together and we find it together, or we have a competition, who can find it first. And I think you involve them in finding the answer, and you're teaching them, you're helping them.
Exactly.
Spelling's one thing, and the other thing is facts. If they say to you, okay, so what is the capital of the Netherlands? And that's a difficult one. So how are we going to find the answer? Are we going to look on Wikipedia? Is that always going to have the correct answer? Is that the best place to look? Or should we look somewhere else? And then you just involve them in it. And it's a learning experience.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. Thank you. Thank you, Emma. Thank you very much. And by the way, hello, and the one, namaste.
Yeah,
Emma
hi,
and Volkan.
Bafna. Wow, lovely to see you. And I can also see Jennifer's here as well. It's lovely to see so many friends.
Wonderful.
Thanks for
they are
joining
here.
us. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And by the way, let me remind you, if you have any questions to ask for Emma, you can just write them into the question part. There is a button icon obviously at the bottom of the screen. There is a little question, something like over there. If you write your questions over there, and I can direct them to Emma during our session. Okay, so let's move to another one. And the qualities and skills are really important for language teachers, and when we teach, we need to have some some good qualities, and also we need to have some skills which are really important for us. So what do you think about it? What are the important qualities and skills successful English language teacher should possess? Or if you don't want to talk about the only English language teachers, we can talk about the general, like the teachers should have.
So I was thinking about that. And I'm going to ask you what you think. Are there skills that you can learn? Because the skill I'm going to mention is empathy. So do you think you can learn empathy? Are some people more empathetic than others?
Something,
I mean, I
like
think empathy is
when
really
you're born
important.
it with you.
Yeah, because I think empathy, I would say, number one. Azra there is saying emotional and linguistic skills.
Yeah, exactly.
Linguistic skills, I think you can learn. Empathy, you can try and switch on and somebody can help you develop it. I mean, certainly with my own learners, this is something I work really hard on, helping them understand how other people feel, getting them to walk in other people's shoes. But do you think even though we do the training, some people are going to end up being more empathetic than others? And what do we do next? What do you think?
Actually, it's like something like that. The empathy is something that, it's something comes from the inside, if I'm not wrong. We can try and we can get help from others to feel it, to do it, but, it takes time to do it, You cannot do it in a short period, but sometimes maybe for some other people, maybe they can they learn, or maybe they can try to develop their that feeling, but maybe others they can't do it because it's not in their hands. Yeah, you see.
For example, Bhavna is now saying she makes a lot of story videos that are just amazing, and she's going to create a story soon on empathy. So I guess if we start very young, with primary school children, and we're showing them videos about empathy and we're talking about that, maybe we can develop it. Maybe it's not too late. Maybe we can. Yeah. Needs to be modeled. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly. But sometimes even we try to do this, it's not 100% we direct this feeling to others. Maybe we can fail about it.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, the students or the people that we are trying to transfer this, the feeling empathy, I think they need to be like an open-minded people.
Yes.
We cannot do this for the fixed-minded, if I'm not wrong. If I'm wrong, please correct me.
Yes. No, because I was going to say mindset, isn't it? It's to do with, I don't know how I feel about the growth mindset. A lot has been said about it, and a lot has been, there's also criticism of the whole, of the principles, but I think it is to do with mindset and not, as you say, not being fixed, being open to possibilities and helping our students develop a kind of openness. So I guess the teacher needs to be able to set up a classroom where everyone feels safe to experiment, to try things. Nobody's going to laugh at you. Give it a go.
I see. Exactly. And just a moment. There are some comments here. Can you read them? I'm an English teacher at vocational and technical until in high school. I have had difficulty. Just a moment. Let me send you the rest of it. Yes. In communicating with students in English, they prefer using L1 all the time. I think our teacher wants kind of suggestions.
That's a great one. So, my thinking has kind of come full circle. When I first started teaching and I qualified, I was told English good, all other languages bad. So when you go to the classroom, I don't know whether you've read Animal Farm by George Orwell, but there was this whole idea that, animals on four legs, animals on two legs good, animals on four legs bad. So the same kind of idea, English good, all other languages bad. But that's a terrible thing. That's terrible because it's almost saying, it's ignoring the fact that, yes, but our students do have other languages. And I think perhaps we need to embrace the fact that everybody speaks another language, embrace the fact that a lot of our students are multilingual. And I think at the beginning, have conversations with the students and agree on moments when we will speak English or try and speak English, and moments where other languages might be possible. For example, if I'm going to speak, I need ideas. And maybe that kind of idea gathering, I can do in my own language. So maybe that's fine. Maybe I can sit with my partner and generate some ideas together. Christina's talking about translanguaging, absolutely. And come to my house.
Yes.
We speak 3 languages at home. And my family, we
Very
can have a
nice.
meal. Yeah. And one of my children can suddenly switch between 2 or 3 languages and ask me to pass the salt. And we understand each other. It's fine. So I think allowing for the languages, allowing moments where the students might want to speak their other languages, but then also have moments where you provide support, you provide scaffolding. So you're going to provide sentences, phrases that students can use, easy conversations that they can do, setting a task that's achievable. I'll never forget, I live in the north of Spain, and so we speak Spanish, but the other language is Basque. And I went to Basque classes, and on day 2, our teacher handed out these jobs, and I didn't know what the jobs were, and said, right, now discuss the jobs with your partner.
Uh-huh.
Well, in Basque, all I could say was yes and no. So how could I possibly turn to my partner and discuss the jobs?
Oh,
The whole task was unachievable. So I
I
think you
see.
need to think about, so if my students are going to do this activity, what language will they need to be able to do it? So make sure that they have the phrases. So I
Oh, I
think, I
see.
believe, I
Mm-hmm.
feel. What do you think? I think. Provide them with the adjectives. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a terrible idea. I think that's cool. So just slowly build it up. So finally, when they come together, they can actually do it. And I think a lot of the time we're putting our students into groups. They can't do it because they don't have the ideas. They don't know how to do it. It's embarrassing. My partner speaks my language anyway. Why do I have to switch to English? Maybe
I
you need to
see.
give them a role. Maybe you need to say, okay, and we're actually on television. You're playing the part of X
Uh-huh.
and you're playing the part of Y. Just make it comfortable, help them to relax. And I
I
think
see.
little by little, and then reward them, say, that's great. I love the way you talk to each other for
Uh-huh.
a minute and a half in English. Can you make it 2 minutes next time?
Why not? Mm-hmm.
Have I helped the
Definitely.
person who's answered the question?
Definitely get the answer. Thank you very much, Emma. Thank you. Uh, Azra she's making a comment like, dear Emma, do multilingual students have multicultural and multi-psychological reactions? And I think management will be so challenging. She's writing, and then it could start with something as simple as a greeting in their L1 to acknowledge the diversity in the classroom. Mm-hmm. I see.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Provide prompts, break the task into smaller, doable bits. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Wonderful.
very much. Okay, so let's move to another question. I hope
Mhm.
it's going well. So far, so good.
So far, so good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Great.
I love the
So
questions from
you,
the audience. Keep them coming.
wonderful.
They're
All right.
wonderful. Keep them coming.
So you are a teacher trainer,
Mhm.
and you are helping teachers and the
Mhm.
people who ask you for help. How do you help them as a trainer? And what do teachers expect to get from you? And how do they reach you to get your help?
Wow, that's a great question. I mean, in actual
Thanks.
fact, I work for larger organizations. So I often offer to give a talk at a conference. So you can go to a conference and you'll see a selection of speakers, and you can choose to see a session by me or by Harry or by Bavna or by any of these other professionals here. And I also work for NILE, which is a teacher training organization based
Mm-hmm.
in Norwich. And they run a course, they run courses. And I helped them create an online course in teaching teenagers. So if you would
Wonderful.
be interested in learning more about teaching teenagers, you can sign up with NILE and I would be your tutor. What would you expect? What I would expect is teachers to have an opportunity to think about what they're doing, to reflect on, from day one on, how do teenagers think? What motivates teenagers? How can I choose a lesson which would engage my teenagers? So all the way through the course, it's thinking about what you do, but getting you to reflect on
Mm-hmm.
what works and how you can make it better. And
I
obviously,
see. Thank
beginning at the point where you're at. So thinking about where are you, what help do you need at what point, and how can you move forward?
Mm-hmm. I see. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Emma. So my next question is about your work. You are working as a freelance.
Mm-hmm.
Which one is, the better? Freelance or working for an employer? Which do you prefer and which one do you recommend?
That's a great question. And in fact, I've noticed somebody
Yeah,
asks, can you make enough
there's a question
money?
about it. Uh-huh.
Yeah, can you make enough money as a freelancer?
Is
Well,
it
this,
possible
as
to
I
make a
said,
living? Uh-huh.
make a living.
Sure.
That's a great question. In my own experience, what I would say is get qualified as a teacher. So I think it's definitely worth, and I think Teresa was talking about this last week. You had Teresa Beswick with you. And she said the
Yes.
same thing. Get
Mm-hmm.
yourself qualified as a teacher, because this is going to give you knowledge, skills, reflection, and also the language to enable to be able to talk about teaching. I would then say it's a lot more comfortable to begin by working for somebody else, because what you know is once you've got a job, you're going to get paid at the end of the month, as long as you've got a job with a decent employer. So I was lucky. I worked for somebody who paid me at the end of every month. The promotion prospects were good, so I was able to get experience at teaching a range of levels. I then was able to get some responsibility. I became senior teacher, director of studies, director of education. They sent me to conferences, and so I was able to develop as a teacher. And then once I had the confidence and I thought, actually, I think I could do this on my own, that was at that point that I went freelance. Is it possible to make enough money? Yes, at the moment I do.
Uh-huh.
But I think you need to combine things. So you need to do a bit of teaching, a bit of training. I also do quite a lot of writing.
That's
I think,
great.
yeah, while you're working for your employer, begin to build up the contacts. How do I do it? Online, on
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn. I mean, I think that's how Vulcan, is that how you found me? Did you find me on LinkedIn or?
Yeah, exactly. I search and I found from, yeah, exactly, on LinkedIn.
Yeah. So get yourself on LinkedIn, talk about yourself, what you can do, make the contacts, connect with people, go to conferences, talk to people. And then when you've got your contacts, go freelance. And it can be done. I love it. Do you know what I love about being freelance? Is every day I make the decisions. Do I want to talk to Vulcan? I decide. I don't need to talk to my employer. I don't need to say, can I talk to this man? I make that decision.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
I see. So, yeah, you mean that there are some, the advantages and disadvantages, like
absolutely.
both sides. I
Both
see.
sides, both sides.
Okay.
And I think
Okay.
for me, it's worked brilliantly. So having a life as being employed, building up the contacts, and now I would never go back unless somebody offered me, the $1 million job. But I can't see it happening now. I think
I
I'm going to
see.
stay freelance.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Okay. So I want to ask about your company, or let's say the website. It's called, the name is very interesting, like ELT Teacher to Infinity.
That's
So
right.
like, yeah, exactly. So why did you choose this? Why is that? What is the reason? So what can teachers and what can people, like, can they find there?
Okay, so the idea came from that once we qualify as language teachers, when you think about the kind of people you meet every day, I mean, where I was working, in the morning, I was talking to directors in business companies and teaching them English. At
Uh-huh.
lunchtime, I was going to schools and sitting on the floor with primary school children. In the afternoons, I was talking to teenagers. In the evenings, I was with adults. I mean, when you think about all the different people you meet, when you think about all the different roles you take on during the day, during the month, when you think about
Uh-huh.
all the different things you can do, you can be a teacher, you can be a trainer, you can be a mentor, you can be a writer, you can be a consultant. What I decided was, well, actually, once we become a teacher, we could do anything,
Mm-hmm.
because a teacher has
Exactly.
so many skills, so much experience. So that's where the idea came from, English teacher to infinity. And
I
everybody
see.
who's listening today, that's what I'm going to tell you. Now that you're teachers, you can do anything,
Exactly.
absolutely anything. We've
Mm-hmm.
got the skills and the knowledge and the empathy, I hope. And there we go.
Exactly. Exactly. We have it. Thank
We
you.
have it.
Thank you, Emma.
Mhm.
Let's move to another question. Thank you very much. So, for us, even experienced teacher or inexperienced teacher, it's sometimes very difficult to create a student-centered classroom
Mm.
environment that promotes active language, the learning in the lessons. So,
Mm.
as a trainer or experienced trainer, what strategies do you suggest for create this environment, especially for the beginners?
Teacher.
Yeah, big teachers, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, forget everything you were taught at school. So at school, forget how you were taught. Well, don't forget it, reflect on it. Think about it. So I'm thinking back to my old school days where we sat in rows and the teacher lectured at us. I went to sleep. I didn't do my homework because it wasn't motivating. I tended to sit at the back and talk to my friends because that was more interesting than what the teacher was doing. Reflect on that, reflect on how you felt, and now go into your classroom and now put your learner in the middle, because that is now the most important person. And think about, how am I going to engage them? How am I going to get them involved in what I'm doing? So forget about talking at them. Think about how I can talk with them and how I can use them to create the lesson with me. So it's kind of changing your mindset, asking your students to change their mindsets. Think you're in a different situation now, you're in the middle, and we're going to co-create this class together. And what we're going to create is we're going to work on your needs, your interests, and that's where we're going.
I got it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Emma. All right. So, the technology is, improving every second, I can say. It's not like it's really so fast. And sometimes it's really difficult for us to catch it because million things, that happens in a minute around the world, especially, some in education too. So when you think about it, how do you stay, updated with the latest developments and the trends in education? For some teachers, they say, well, I can't catch it up because it's really difficult to do it. But some of them say, oh, it's very easy, I can do it. So, but what are your suggestions? How do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably in the middle. I wouldn't say I'm completely caught up at all. Use social media. And I think some of your other guests have talked about this. I go on LinkedIn and I follow certain people. So there are specialists in different subjects. So somebody like Nick Peachy is very good with the technology, as is someone like Russell Stannard. So follow these people.
Wonderful.
Sign up for their newsletter. Get their newsletter. Read what they're saying. They often run webinars. Go to their webinars. I don't know if Harry's still in the room, but he's very good with green ELT, sustainability.
Harry
Follow
Waters.
him. Exactly, Harry Waters. Follow what he's doing. Other people are very good at other things. Follow them, find out what they're doing, and go to webinars. There is so much free stuff out there. Sign up for them. Go to sessions which are out of your comfort zone. So, for example, one of my areas that I know little about is business. So I'll go to a session on teaching business people. Go to that. Find out, what are people saying about that kind of teaching now? Find out about things you know nothing about. And finally, if you can, go to conferences. Conferences are great places to network, meet people, find out about what's going on. I think that's the only way.
I see. Thank you. Thank you very much, Emma, for your suggestions. It's really useful tips for us. There is a question. Let me ask you, just a moment. Christina is asking, hello, and I'm newly graduated ELT, so I would like to ask, is there any tips for the first lesson at school to make it more effective?
Oh, yeah. Do you know what advice I always say to new teachers is, forget about the materials, get to know your students, because what you need to do from the beginning is create a community where the students feel they belong. So my very first lesson begins with names. What's your name? Where does your name come from? How do I pronounce your name? Because I think it's really important that the teacher, especially somebody like me who's working in a different culture, my pronunciation might not be great. I work with the students until I can say their names correctly. So that's where I begin. I begin with names, make sure I know your name, make sure the students know each other's names, find out about them, focus the first few lessons on getting to know them, getting to know their interests. You might even want them to give a little mini presentation in groups on things that they enjoy doing. Give them a choice about how they're going to present this to them. But the first idea is create a community in your classroom. Then move on to your materials and your course book or your whatever you're going to be using to establish the course. But my first advice is get to know your learners and let them get to know you too. Tell them something about you.
Exactly. To make them know us.
Yes.
Exactly. I see. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Emma. Thank you. All right.
Oh, one more thing.
Sure.
Somebody once said to me, one more thing. Somebody once said to me, with teenagers, don't smile until January. Rubbish. Smile a lot. Be nice. Be kind. Yeah.
Exactly. And also creating a rapport with them also very important. Exactly. That's really important that you mentioned about it in the classroom. It's really, really important for us. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. You know, sometimes I'm thinking to write a course book, and then I think that, it's not an easy job to do it. The writing a course book, it's not for us. It takes maybe years, maybe 2 years, I don't know how many, maybe months and years to write them. So probably there are some important parts to write it. And I know that you are a writer too, if I'm not wrong, a course book writer. So for you, what are the most important aspects to write a course book? Not all of them, all the aspects, but maybe a couple important ones for you.
It's a great question. When I used to work in our school, the teachers used to say to me, these course books are rubbish. Why don't we write our own? And I said, it's a huge job. I mean, what goes into it is quite amazing. So where you need to start is what's called a scope and sequence. So basically, this is the contents. So before the contents, you need to decide on the level. What level are you writing for?
I see.
The next thing is your approach and your beliefs. So what do you believe about teaching? Do you believe that teaching should be very, very grammar focused? So are you going to have a lot of grammar explanations in your book? Is your approach a more communicative approach? Would you like a lot more conversation going on? Your approach to grammar, might you want to include videos so the students can watch the videos at home? So think about your approach. And then finally, it's your scope and sequence, the contents. How are you going to divide the units? What will be the theme of each unit? And what will be the content within each unit? Will you have a kind of grammar syllabus, or will it be a vocabulary syllabus? Or maybe you'll have a skills syllabus. So in Unit 1, we're going to be looking at empathy. Unit 2, we're going to talk about team building. Could be a skills-based, life skills-based syllabus. But I think that's the important thing. The level, the audience, who am I writing for? Is it for adults? Is it for teenagers? The approach, Is it the approach? What is my belief about learning a language? And finally, what will the contents look like? And then finally, you would start writing. But you need to plan it. And the planning, when I've written a book, often the planning takes 3 months.
Wow.
So we'll plan it and we'll put it all out for 3 months, and we'll look at themes. We'll look at how we're going to actually, what the content of each text is going to be. And then finally, when we've got the plan, we start writing.
You start writing.
And I would say that writing takes about 2 years.
Wow.
Because you've got the first draft, the second draft, you've got to find photographs, you've got to record the listenings, the videos. Somebody's then got to read it all over again. We've got to pilot it. It goes on and on. Yeah.
Exactly. So we can easily say that it's not an easy job to do.
No. So it's funny when the teachers used to say to me, Emma, why don't we write our own book? I would yes. You do it. You start. Yes.
You can start. It's really, maybe they think that
exactly.
it's easy to write. Okay, so Why don't you write? Okay, let's
Yeah,
write.
yeah,
And how
yeah.
many days will it take? Just within a week we can write a whole course book, not a
Yes, yes,
problem.
yes, yes,
It's
yes. No problem, no
impossible.
problem.
Maybe it needs a couple years to write.
Yes, yes, yes, yes.
Exactly.
Or
Okay.
let's put a team together, and we put a team together of 12 people, and none of it works. But I mean, what I just said is actually true about lesson planning. You know, how many teachers suddenly think, I know I'm going to play bingo in class, for example. And what they've done is they've started with what I'm going to do. And what
Uh-huh.
they've forgotten is the why. What is the why of my class? What is the purpose of today's lesson? And then maybe bingo will fit in. Maybe bingo will help me achieve my why. But always
Oh,
begin
I
with the
see.
why. Begin with the why first. Why am I doing this? What is this all about? And then start on the details.
Mhm. I got it. Thank you. The why is important one
It's
because
important. Yeah.
we need to realize it, the reasons
Mm,
that we are doing
mm,
it. Exactly. Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you
Absolutely.
very much, Emma. All right. So, by the way, just a couple questions left, and the time flies, It's
Yeah.
almost an hour, and just two or three questions left, Emma. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's move to another one. And Emma, there are some times in our lives that we face real difficulties, and at that times, maybe we cannot find a solution, so we cannot find a way to get out.
Mm,
And then at that time, we say, oh my God, I wish I could that
mm,
superpower to use it so I
yeah.
could easily solve my
Mm,
problem. So,
mm.
and when you think about this into the classroom, if you could have one superpower to use it in the classroom, I mean, what would it be and how would it help you?
So what I'm going to say is patience. I would like
Oh,
infinite patience. Um,
that's
I
really
think
we need it.
if we had never-ending patience, that would just be brilliant. I mean, the number of times where I've just ended up getting frustrated or angry, and I'm thinking, Emma, calm down. Don't get so frustrated or angry. And I think if I could be patient, I think that would forever. I think that would really, really help. That would be
I
my
see.
superpower.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. The patience is really
Yeah.
important. By the way, and Christina is asking a question. I think you can see it, but let me read for you. There is
Hmm.
another question for which I cannot find correct answer and make decision. Do you think L1 should be used in the classroom or it would be better to teach entirely in English? Actually, you've given this
Yeah.
answer before, but maybe would like that
I'll just
maybe
quickly
one or two things?
recap, and I'm just going to say the answer is L1 should be used, can be used. I think we're creating an artificial situation if we're not respecting diversity if we go into a classroom and only speak and insist on English only. I think we have to respect that people need to express themselves and they might need to do this in their own language.
Uh-huh. I see. I sometimes, in my lessons, during the activities, if they are in a group work, I let them to use L1, but not a whole work,
Mm,
just a couple.
mm,
I ignore them while using L1, because,
mhm,
in the group works, maybe it's not too much problem to use it because they try to learn something from each other and maybe they
mhm,
don't know how to explain
mhm,
what they want to learn or
mhm,
what they want to ask during the activity. So I let them to use it
mhm,
during the
mhm,
activities,
mhm,
but only especially for the group works, not
mhm,
individual or not pair, but the group
mhm,
works.
mhm, mhm. And then there's something else you can do is you can then ask them, so can you just give me a quick summary of what you were talking about? And this is the new work on mediation, the
Hmm.
kind of idea that we would end up in a situation where three people would speak three different languages and people would mediate. So I could, if I came to your country and we met a friend of yours who didn't speak English, and you would talk to the friend and I would say, so what did your friend say? And you would then explain it to me in English. So we can
I
use
see.
this, we can use mediation. We can ask our students at the end. So, and in my instance, when they're speaking Basque, I can understand some of it, but I might say, Okay, so can you just quickly tell me what you were saying in your group? I didn't catch all of it.
Hmm.
And that's how you can then bring the English back into the conversation.
I see. It's a great one. I'll try that one too. Thank you.
Mm.
Thank you very much, Emma. Okay, so let's think that, Emma, we finish our interview and you go outside your home and find a lottery ticket, ends up with winning $10 million. What would you do? A lot of money, I think. Yeah.
Have you read the scandal about Elon Musk? I mean, he gave himself a pay rise of $56 million or something like that.
Wow.
I mean, $10 million is just too much. Nobody needs $10 million. So what would I do? Well, I can't use $10 million. So, I would, obviously a lot of it would go to good work. But for myself, what would I do? I still need to travel. I'd still love to do more traveling. I'd still, I've never been to your country, never been to Turkey. I'd love to
You're
go there.
always welcome. Mhm.
That's on my wish list. So if anyone's listening out there, that's definitely on my wish list to go. So I wouldn't need $10 million though, no, would I, to get there?
No, I don't know. Oh,
I could take
but
the whole of Spain with me
yeah,
for $10 million.
why not?
So
Exactly.
yeah, no, I'd love to
Thank you.
travel. I think that's what I do, but I don't need $10 million to do that.
Okay,
Yeah, I think
half
I'd
of it.
probably, yeah, like to set up a school, I guess, and just a free school where people could come somewhere, and it would be free for everybody. And if people
Wonderful.
wanted a salary, I'd have enough money for a salary, I guess, for people to live on.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, I wish you could do that as soon as possible. Okay, so here, let's move to the last question of the session,
Mm.
Emma. Ready for it? And the most
Yes.
difficult one. This is really important. Okay, here we go. What is your motto?
Oh,
Oh,
that's a really
oh.
difficult one. I don't have a motto. I don't have a motto, but I have a word of the year. And my word of the year is intentional.
Mm,
So
mm,
intentional means everything I do has a reason. So think about why I'm doing things. So for example, you asked me to come on your program, and I thought about it, and I thought, yes, I want to come on because I watched a couple first, and I thought, yes, I like what he's saying, I like his questions, so I'm going to go on it. So before you do anything, before you agree to do anything, think about why. Do everything with intention, except for the crazy things. When my friend says, let's jump in the sea, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, I jump in the sea. I don't bother thinking why. Well, I do. I think that's fun, and that's reason enough to do it.
Oh, I see. Thank you. Thank you very much, Emma. Okay, that's all my questions, Emma. And thank you very much. And before ending our live sessions, would you like to add anything else?
I do, because we're celebrating your 150th birthday.
Thank you.
I've got
Yeah.
2 questions for you. I'll ask them
Ah,
together. Okay,
sure.
so you've done 150 episodes. Is there anyone that you've wanted to interview, but you haven't been able to? Who is it? And maybe this community can help you make it happen. And my second question is,
Perfect.
if you could interview a famous person, who would it be? So I've got two
Ah,
questions there for you.
okay. So the first thing is, I would like to have a conversation. Really, I try, the couple times I send an emails, but I couldn't get any response. Stefan Krashen.
Oh,
Yeah.
so we'll put a request out there. So we need a friend out there of
Yeah.
Stephen Krashen,
Yeah, that's
and
really
let's
important.
see.
But
Yeah,
it's really, really, I'm the dreaming of it.
yeah.
I really love to do it
Oh,
because he's very, very important for the ELT world as a
mm,
person.
mm.
So that's why I try to reach him, but I know he's very busy. That's why maybe that he couldn't see it. Anyway, I'll try again. I never give
Yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'll
No, don't
try
give
until
up.
I reach him,
Yeah,
and then maybe finally I will reach.
yeah. And
Yeah, very high
when
expectation. There's a comment, by the way. Nilgün İner, but is here. By the way, she's my wife,
ah,
and she's a very high expectation.
we'll
That's wonderful.
do it. We'll do it for you for your
I hope so.
300th
Yeah,
session. You're going to have Stephen
yeah. For
Krashen. We'll put out a
okay,
request. Anyone
Okay.
listening in this community can help us. Let's do it for you.
Okay, I'll try to do it. And the questions, I don't know, and maybe the how long does it take to become such a great person about the ELT world for you?
Yes,
Maybe I can ask that
yes,
question,
yes, it
and
is.
what kind of things you did it. So
Yeah,
how how how did you manage it to become
yeah,
successful like this in ELT world?
yeah,
I can
yeah,
ask these
yeah, yeah,
questions because they're
yeah.
kind of a pioneer for lots of things in ELT
Yes,
world.
yes, yes, yes, yes,
So
yeah,
that's really important. That's the question that I
yeah,
want to ask him.
yeah.
But the thing is that only I need to reach him
Yes, we'll get him, we'll
and
get
invite.
him. And
Okay.
somebody famous, not
Somebody
in
famous,
ELT?
not ELT. I don't know. Maybe I would like to invite actually two people. They are,
Ah,
the
ah.
footballers, maybe you can guess one of it, the Cristiano Ronaldo and
And
the
Messi.
other one is Lionel Messi. And I want to get them into the session at the same time. And that can be, oh my God, I
Oh
can't
my God.
imagine
Oh
that
my
that
God.
that's something
Yeah.
impossible. But I just dream it. But that can
Yeah.
be all, yeah. And also another one, yeah, she's right, David Guetta.
Ah.
That's a DJ, as you know,
Uh-huh.
with David Guetta.
Mm.
That's one of my favorite
Uh-huh.
one. I love him, and maybe every day I listen to his songs, and it can be really awesome to have a chance to invite David Guetta to my
Yeah.
session and just talk a couple minutes and asking some
Yes.
questions about the ideas, maybe about the education. I can ask some
Yes.
education question. That's what I can say about them. That's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. So
Good questions. Thank you very much for your questions,
yeah,
Emma. They are really
not at
wonderful.
all. So go off and
Okay.
celebrate. Happy birthday
Thank
and
you.
lovely to meet you and lovely to see
Yeah.
your wife here too. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'm really happy and I'm really, the honored to have you here, Emma. And I would like to say thank you very much one more time, really, for your suggestions, for your advice, for your, the things that you hear. The most important thing you've given us, your time. Really, that's really wonderful. And I saw some comments that they ask me, please have another session with Emma. Of course, why not? In the future, we can have another session if she accepts to, of course. And we can have another session with different topics and
Mm-hmm.
questions. And maybe we
Mm,
can have a kind of a question answer sessions,
mm,
only
mm, mm,
you ask her questions and she
mm,
can answer. Why not? We can do that. All right.
mm, mm.
So thank you very much one more time.
Yeah.
Would you like to add anything else, or I can?
No, thank you to you. Thank you to you. Have a
Okay,
good evening.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
And Emma, just a moment. So sorry. And Emma Heyderman was with us here tonight with Teacher Talks 150 anniversary. Exactly, she mentioned, and we had a great and fruitful session with her. We are going to be here next week. At the same time on the same day, as you know, every Monday at 9 p.m. and Turkey's time. Until the next time, wherever you are, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And until the next time, bye bye everybody and peace. Bye bye, Emma. Take care of yourself.
Bye.